For centuries, politics has been the ultimate game of power. A game where kings and revolutionaries, presidents and dictators all played for the same prize: control. But behind every major decision that changed the course of history are the untold stories, hidden power struggles that shaped the world we live in today. What if the true forces driving history have always operated in the shadows, manipulating events while the rest of us watch the spectacle unfold? Let's start in 19th century New York City, a time when millions of immigrants poured into America, chasing the dream of a better life. What they found was chaos: overcrowded tenements, grueling jobs, and exploitation at every turn. Amid this turmoil rose Tammany Hall, a political machine that offered help, but at a price. They provided jobs, homes, and protection, but their real business was power. Votes were bought with bread. Loyalty was demanded in return. This wasn't just corruption. It was a calculated system of control, exploiting the desperation of the powerless. Tammany Hall didn't create poverty. They capitalized on it. And here's the question. In today's world, where economic inequality is rampant, are political machines truly gone? Or have they simply evolved? Are today's leaders any different? Or are they just wearing better suits? Now let's shift to Europe in the early 20th century. As World War I loomed on the horizon, something extraordinary happened. Political leaders began making secret deals that would change the fate of nations. One such deal was the Treaty of London in 1915. Italy promised territorial rewards, abandoned neutrality, and joined the Allies. It sounds like strategy, but these backroom agreements planted the seeds of distrust and betrayal. How often do we think about the consequences of decisions made in secret? These deals didn't just end a war, they redrew borders, toppled empires, and created wounds that festered for decades. And here's the real question. In a world where international diplomacy is still conducted behind closed doors, how much do we really know about the forces shaping our future? Fast forward to the Cold War. The names Kennedy and Khrushchev dominate history books, but the real battleground wasn't just in speeches or missile standoffs. It was in covert operations, like the 1953 CIA-backed coup in Iran, known as Operation Ajax. Iran's democratically elected leader, Mohammad Mossadegh, wanted to nationalize the country's oil, but the British and Americans had other plans. In a matter of months, Mossadegh was overthrown, and a monarchy loyal to Western powers was restored. This wasn't just about one man or one nation. This was the beginning of a playbook: economic interests disguised as ideology, intervention justified by the language of democracy. Think about it. If oil could topple a government, then what do you think drives geopolitical decisions today? Is it still freedom and peace, or something far more profitable? Closer to home, the civil rights movement in America wasn't just a fight for equality, it was a chess match. Leaders like Martin Luther King Jr. and Malcolm X understood that every march, every speech, was part of a larger strategy. King's nonviolent protests were designed to provoke brutal responses, forcing the media to confront the nation with images it couldn't ignore. But while the public saw a movement for justice, the FBI saw a threat. They spied on King, sending him anonymous letters to discredit his character and break his spirit. They wanted to crush the movement before it could change the system. If governments were willing to go to such lengths to silence dissent in the 1960s, what might they be doing today? In an age of mass surveillance and artificial intelligence, how many movements are being monitored or manipulated right now? History's most explosive moments often come from revolutions, promising to tear down oppression and rebuild societies on the foundation of liberty and equality. But how often do these promises deliver? Take the French Revolution, for example. It began with cries of freedom and justice, but soon spiraled into the Reign of Terror, where former revolutionaries like Robespierre became the very tyrants they once opposed. Why does this pattern repeat? Why do revolutions so often replace one form of oppression with another? Could it be that the structures of power are so deeply ingrained that even those who fight to dismantle them end up perpetuating the cycle? And here's the bigger question. Are today's movements, whether for climate justice, racial equality, or democracy, truly different? Or are they doomed to the same fate? Let's turn to the 20th century and the rise of propaganda. Hitler's Third Reich didn't just seize power through force, it was built on a narrative. Propaganda convinced ordinary Germans that their struggles were caused by enemies within: Jews, communists, and anyone who didn't fit the regime's vision. But it wasn't just Hitler. Stalin rewrote history books in the Soviet Union, erasing rivals from photographs and reshaping public memory. Propaganda wasn't about lying. It was about creating a version of reality so compelling that people believed it without question. And here's the unsettling truth. Propaganda didn't end with the fall of fascist regimes. Today, it's woven into social media algorithms, tailored ads, and echo chambers. How much of what we think we know is shaped by forces we can't even see? If propaganda once controlled nations, could it now be controlling billions of individuals in real time? And then there's the politics of division. Throughout history, leaders have exploited race, religion, and class to consolidate their own power. During apartheid in South Africa, systemic racism wasn't just a cultural issue, it was a political strategy. Similarly, India's caste system has been leveraged by leaders for centuries to maintain control. These divisions create a powerful tool. When people are fighting each other, they're too distracted to challenge the system itself. But here's the chilling part. In today's polarized world, are we falling for the same tactics? Are modern political leaders stoking division to keep us divided and them in power? History doesn't move in a straight line. It's a cycle, a series of repeating patterns driven by the same forces: greed, fear, and the insatiable hunger for control. But if we can see these patterns, why do they keep happening? Why do societies continue to fall into the same traps? Is it because the people in power benefit from our ignorance? Or is it because we're too distracted by the present to truly learn from the past? As we look at the world today, at corruption scandals, geopolitical conflicts, and rising inequality, we have to ask ourselves, are we living through just another chapter in the same story? Or are we standing at the brink of something new, a moment where history's lessons will finally be heard? The truth is, the future of politics isn't just being written by governments, corporations, or powerful elites. It's being written by us, by the choices we make, the leaders we hold accountable, and the voices we amplify. But here's the real question. Will we rise above the cycles of power and control, or will we become just another story for future generations to uncover? Because if history has taught us one thing, it's this: the game of politics never ends. It just changes its players.